In the ever-evolving world of Formula One, innovation is the name of the game. As teams strive for supremacy on the track, Aston Martin has emerged as a trailblazer with their 2024 Formula One car. With cutting-edge technology and a relentless pursuit of performance, Aston Martin's latest creation promises to shake up the grid and redefine what's possible in the world of motorsport. So let's dive into the technical details we get to see with the new AMR24 car being tested on the track and what we can expect from them in the upcoming season. It will be challenging for Aston Martin to duplicate its unexpectedly robust beginning to the previous campaign in 2024. While not out of the question, that depends on if the team has accurately determined why it fell off mid-year last time and never truly bounced back to the same level. Now, with the AlphaTauri, or shall I say Visa Cash App Racing Bulls team, also called VCarb, emerging as the Red Bull clone, all eyes are on the Faenza-based team, expecting them to show the same dominance as the main Red Bull team. Despite this, Aston Martin's new manufacturing facility is operational after relocating last year, and the company has high hopes. So let's examine what we've seen up to this point, drawing on a mix of the initial renderings and the images from the Silverstone test drive. We will be exploring the technical aspects and compare it to the previous year's model to see the relevant changes made for 2024. These technical changes, highlighted by Gary Anderson, show the clear trajectory of the development path that Aston Martin have taken. Let's first start with the front of the car, the most crucial component of any Formula One machine, its front wing. From this frontal view, and in comparison to last year's vehicle, we can observe that Aston Martin has implemented a slot opening highlighted in red between the front wing's main plane or forward element and the underside of the nose. This slot will permit a more aggressive contour on the underside of the nose, which will generate superior flow conditions to the central part of the underfloor. It also has a more rounded shape on the nose, enabling the airflow to detach off the upper surface and wrap around the sides with minimal disruption. It is this central airflow region that the diffuser mainly extracts its airflow from, so any enhancements made at the front of the car will boost performance at the rear as well. In this comparison, we can see there are some small detail changes to the outer end of the front wing shown by red highlight where it connects to the vertical end plate. Additionally, there are modifications to the three slot openings, green highlight, where the wing sections join the end plate. These updates increase the outward flow of air around the front tire. Controlling the airflow around the front tire is vital to the performance of the underfloor. The inner fender assembly, which includes the front brake duct highlighted in blue, serves a similar function on the inside. Low on this inner fender are two turning vanes that direct the airflow into the low-pressure region just after the tire leaves the track surface. Behind the tire, the outward airflow in front of the tire shown by red arrow and behind the front tire indicated by green arrows will merge into one stream. If this is efficient, it will reduce the wake behind the front tire and also the drag of the front tire assembly. The radiator inlet has undergone a significant redesign. Although it is conceptually similar, it has evolved considerably. The inlet is now basically just an opening on the top surface highlighted in red. To control the airflow above it, Aston Martin utilizes the rear view mirror and its horizontal support highlighted in yellow. When looking at the side of the car, the flow over the side pod shown by the yellow arrows demonstrates how the inlet is positioned more or less on the top surface of the side pod. The rad flow is represented by the thicker magenta arrow. This flow typically cools the car, and the spillage is shown by the thinner magenta arrow flowing over the top of the side pod from the radiator opening. The blue arrows symbolize the airflow separated by the lower surface of the intake. This airflow will be utilized to extract the flow from beneath the front corner of the floor, denoted by the green arrows. Now, speaking of the suspension system of Aston Martin, we can see some upgrades that will make this car more stable and predictable under cornering and braking. If we see this image, we can clearly observe that Aston Martin has kept the pushrod front suspension highlighted in red and has a decent amount of anti-dive on the top front wishbone, which is highlighted in blue. The bottom wishbone that is highlighted in yellow is quite flat across the two inner mountings, meaning it doesn't provide much anti-dive properties. Like with most other vehicles, the steering toe link is aligned with the forward part of the lower wishbone, so reducing the negative aerodynamic consequence of having a separate element in the airflow. At the rear end, there's a completely different story going on. Aston Martin is, as we all know, a Mercedes customer team, meaning that along with engines, it also buys several other parts from Mercedes, including the rear suspension and transmission, which implies that Aston Martin is reliant on Mercedes's rear suspension attachment points to a certain degree. From that point, Aston Martin could either use Mercedes's suspension parts or design its own. For now, we have to assume that Aston Martin has developed its own components, and anything final can only be said when Mercedes W15 is launched later on this week. The yellow highlighted section is the top suspension wishbone on both cars. On the 2023 car, the red highlight shows the pull rod suspension. On the 2024 car, this same area is now a push rod. On the 2023 car, the magenta rectangle was like a lower wishbone in an A shape that also contained the drive shaft. On the 2024 car, the magenta section still houses the drive shaft but is less wishbone-like. The rear toe link seems to have moved forward of the drive shaft on the 2024 car. The push rod is at a very shallow angle to the lower wishbone on the 2024 car. The lower wishbone takes a large percentage of the push rod load, which may explain why it and the toe link look more evenly displaced. The top wishbone's forward inboard pickup point is also lower, meaning that it will reduce lift at the rear under braking. Dan Fallows, team's technical director, was asked about the thinking behind these changes and how they came up with this idea for the AMR24 car. He stated, "Rather than thinking about individual races, from an engineering point of view, we have to make a car that is capable of operating at any circuit and being competitive. And that's really what we're focused on. Making a car that's usable. That's good for the drivers," said Fallows. "That's what we've really been trying to focus on. And those competitive stats and how we get closer to Red Bull will come after that. If we put our performance on the car, then we give ourselves the ability to compete at that level, which is exactly what we want." So given the heavy upgrades that Aston Martin have made and also the on-track testing, it is safe to say that they are looking poised to challenge the dominant Red Bull team. Now we just have to wait and see what the other top teams have to offer, namely McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes. Overall, the new car appears to be a significant advancement, but with these ground effect vehicles, the true test is on the track. We will have to wait until the Bahrain Grand Prix to see if this is genuinely a step forward for Aston Martin. However, the team looks optimistic, as in interviews Dan Fallows described Red Bull as definitely beatable. However, when asked if he meant beating them to the championship or just in individual races, he softened his stance slightly. "We talk about Red Bull because they are the benchmark for performance right now. But for us, our focus is on whoever has the fastest car, regardless of the team." So what do you think? Are these changes going to make the Aston Martin AMR24 car a formidable opponent against the proven Red Bull RB19? And will Fernando Alonso extract the utmost potential out of the car? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon to never miss another upload from us. See you in the next one.